The alarm bells rang through the ship like angry metal birds. Woo-Jin Park looked up from his work table where he had been fixing a broken coffee maker. The sound meant someone was hurt badly. He put down his tools and ran toward the medical bay with everyone else. The ship Harmony's Edge was not like the big warships people saw in movies. It was a research vessel where humans and aliens worked together to study new planets. Woo-Jin had been working on the ship for 8 months now. He fixed things that broke. It was not exciting work, but he was good at it. When he got to the medical bay, he saw a crowd of people standing around something on the floor. Dr. So Young Kim was kneeling beside a tall alien warrior. The alien was breathing hard and making painful sounds. His name was Kael'thex, and he belonged to a race called the Velthari. The Velthari looked like humans but much taller and thinner. Their skin was pale blue and they had small crystals growing from their foreheads. Kael'thex was wearing special armor that was now broken into many pieces. The armor was not just clothing. It helped him breathe and kept his body working right. Without it, he would die. "How long does he have?" asked Commander Hae-Won Lee. She was the captain of the ship and also from Korea like Woo-Jin. "Maybe 6 hours," said Dr. Kim. "The armor keeps his organs working." When it broke, his body started failing. Zethnal, the chief engineer, was looking at the broken armor pieces. He was also Velthari and much older than Kael'thex. His crystals were bigger and glowed with soft light. "This armor is very old," he said. "It was made by my great-grandfather's grandfather. The quantum matrix inside is damaged beyond repair." Woo-Jin did not understand all the big words, but he could see the problem. The armor had a special crystal network inside that looked like tiny roads of light. Now those roads were broken and the light was going out. "Can we make new armor?" asked Commander Lee. Zethnal shook his head. "This type of armor takes many years to grow. The crystals must be shaped while they are still alive. We do not have the tools or time." Other engineers came to look at the armor. There was Vexila from the blue-skinned Kepler race and Gorth, who came from a planet with heavy gravity. They all said the same thing. The armor could not be fixed. Woo-Jin watched them work for 2 hours. They used fancy machines that made humming sounds and shot lights at the broken pieces. Nothing worked. The quantum matrix was too damaged. Every time they tried to connect the broken crystal roads, they fell apart again. "We should prepare for the end ceremony," said Zethnal sadly. "Kael'thex was a good warrior. He should die with honor." "Wait," said Woo-Jin. Everyone looked at him. He was not used to speaking up in front of so many people. "Can I look at it?" Zethnal made a sound that might have been laughing. "You are human. Your people do not understand quantum technology." "Maybe not," said Woo-Jin, "but I understand broken things." Commander Lee nodded at him. "Let him try. We have nothing to lose." Woo-Jin knelt down beside the armor pieces. Up close, he could see how beautiful they were. The metal was not like anything from Earth. It seemed to glow from inside. The broken crystal roads looked like tiny lightning trapped in glass. He touched one piece carefully. It felt warm and seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The other engineers watched him with curious faces. Some looked annoyed that a human was touching their advanced technology. Woo-Jin closed his eyes and remembered his grandfather's workshop back in Busan. The old man had taught him to fix metal things when he was a boy. "Feel the metal," his grandfather used to say. "Every piece of metal has a story. Listen to what it tells you." When Woo-Jin opened his eyes, he saw something the alien engineers had missed. The quantum crystal roads were not just broken. They were trying to grow back together, but in the wrong pattern. It was like a tree trying to heal from a cut, but growing in a twisted way. "The crystals are still alive," he said. "Of course they are alive," said Zethnal. "But they are dying." "That is the problem." "No," said Woo-Jin. "They are not dying. They are confused." He went to get his toolbox. The other engineers looked surprised when they saw his tools. He had no fancy machines or computers. Just hammers, files, and simple welding equipment. Things his grandfather had taught him to use. "You cannot fix quantum technology with those primitive tools," said Vexila. Woo-Jin did not answer. He was looking at the armor pattern. The crystal roads reminded him of the metal work his grandfather made. Traditional Korean metalwork used a technique called demassining. You took 2 different metals and folded them together many times. The pattern that came out was both strong and beautiful. The alien engineers thought the crystal roads had to be perfect. Every connection had to be exactly right. But Woo-Jin saw something different. Maybe the roads did not need to be perfect. Maybe they needed to be like his grandfather's metalwork. Imperfect but strong. He started working. First, he heated one piece of the armor with a simple torch. The aliens made worried sounds, but Commander Lee told them to let him work. The crystal rods started to glow brighter as they got warm. Then Wu Jin did something that made everyone gasp. He took a small hammer and gently tapped the crystal. Not hard enough to break it more, but just enough to change its shape a little bit. "You are destroying it," shouted Zethnal, but Wu Jin kept working. He bent the crystal rods slightly, making them curve instead of going straight. Then he used his welding tool to heat the connections. The crystals started to reach toward each other like plants growing toward the sun. For 3 hours, Wu Jin worked on each piece of armor. He did not try to make the crystal rods perfect. Instead, he made them flow like water, bending and curving in natural patterns. Sometimes he made small breaks on purpose, then let the crystals heal themselves around the breaks. The alien engineers watched in silence. Some looked angry. Others looked confused. Dr. Kim brought Wu Jin coffee and sandwiches, but he was too focused to eat. When the sunlights on the ship dimmed to show that nighttime had come, Wu Jin put down his tools. The armor pieces were back together, but they looked different now. The crystal rods glowed with warm light and seemed to pulse in rhythm with each other. "It will not work," said Zethnal. "The quantum matrix is all wrong." But Wu Jin was already lifting the armor toward Kael'theks. The moment it touched the warrior's body, something amazing happened. The crystals flared with bright light, and the armor seemed to melt into place around him. Kael'theks took a deep breath. His eyes opened. The painful sound stopped. "How do you feel?" asked Dr. Kim. Kael'theks sat up slowly. He moved his arms and legs, testing the armor. "I feel strong," he said. "Stronger than before." Zethnal ran to his machines and pointed them at the armor. His eyes went wide when he saw the readings. "Impossible," he whispered. "The quantum matrix is more stable than when it was first made." Everyone looked at Wu Jin. He was cleaning his tools and putting them back in his box just like his grandfather had taught him. "How did you do it?" asked Commander Lee. Wu Jin thought for a moment. "My grandfather taught me that perfect things break easily. Strong things have flaws that make them bend instead of breaking." He did not know that his words would change everything. He did not know that news of what he had done was already traveling through space to reach the most powerful queen in the galaxy. He just knew that he had helped save someone's life, and that made him feel good. The alarm bells had stopped ringing. The ship was quiet again. But everything was different now. The next morning, Wu Jin woke up to find people staring at him in the cafeteria. Word had spread through the ship about what he had done. Some crew members nodded at him with respect. Others whispered behind their hands and pointed at him. Kael'theks was sitting at a table eating breakfast. He looked completely healthy. His armor glowed softly and seemed to move with him like a second skin. When he saw Wu Jin, he stood up and bowed deeply. "You saved my life," Kael'theks said. "I am in your debt." Wu Jin felt embarrassed. "I just fixed some broken metal. Anyone could have done it." "No," said Kael'theks firmly. "What you did was impossible. My people have tried to understand it all night, but they cannot." Dr. So-Young Kim sat down at their table with her breakfast tray. She looked tired but excited. "Wu Jin, you need to see what happened to the armor. The readings are incredible." They went to the medical bay where Zethnal was still working with his machines. The old Velthari engineer looked like he had not slept at all. His crystal forehead was glowing brighter than usual, which meant he was thinking very hard. "The quantum matrix is not just stable," Zethnal said without looking up. "It is evolving, growing stronger by itself." He showed them the computer screen. Wu Jin could not understand the numbers and graphs, but he could see that something was definitely happening. Lines of light were moving across the screen in patterns that looked almost alive. "In my language, we have a word," said Zethnal. "It means impossible thing that exists anyway. We will need to make a new word for this." Dr. Kim explained what was happening. "The crystal matrix in Velthari armor works like a computer, but a living computer. It learns and adapts. Usually when it breaks, it dies. But somehow your repair method made it stronger and smarter." "I just made it more like my grandfather's metalwork," said Wu Jin. "That is what we do not understand," said Zethnal. "Your grandfather was a primitive human metalworker. How could his techniques improve our advanced technology?" Before Wu Jin could answer, Commander Lee's voice came through the ship speakers. "All senior staff report to the bridge immediately. Priority message from Velthari High Command." On the bridge, the main screen showed 3 Velthari officials. Their crystals were much larger than Zethnal's, which meant they were very important. They wore robes with complex patterns that seemed to move and change colors. "We have received disturbing reports," said the middle official. "It is claimed that a human has successfully repaired warrior-class armor using primitive methods. This is clearly a mistake in translation." Commander Lee stood straight. "No mistake, honored ones. Our engineer Woojin Park successfully repaired the armor of Kael'thex using traditional human techniques." The three officials looked at each other. "Impossible," said the one on the left. "Human technology is thousands of years behind ours. Your people still use metal tools and chemical fuel. Yet here we are," said Commander Lee calmly. "We demand proof," said the middle official. "Send us complete data on this supposed repair." Zethnal stepped forward and transmitted his readings to the Velthari officials. For several minutes, they studied the data in silence. Their crystals began to glow brighter and brighter. "This cannot be correct," said the official on the right. "These readings show quantum matrix stability beyond theoretical maximums." "The readings are correct," said Zethnal. "I have checked them many times." The three officials spoke to each other in their own language. Their voices became faster and more excited. Finally, the middle one turned back to the screen. "This matter requires investigation by the highest authority. Queen Nixara herself will come to examine this impossibility." The screen went dark. Everyone on the bridge was quiet for a long moment. "Who is Queen Nixara?" asked Woojin. Zethnal and Kael'thex both made the same expression, like they had tasted something sour. "She is the supreme ruler of the Velthari Empire," said Zethnal. "She has lived for over 2,000 years and rules 67 planets. She is also very dangerous," added Kael'thex. "Queens do not like to be confused or surprised." Commander Lee turned to Woojin. "How long until she arrives?" "Her personal fleet can travel very fast," said Zethnal. "Maybe 3 days." For the next 3 days, the ship felt different. The Velthari crew members were nervous and kept checking their equipment. The humans tried to act normal, but everyone knew something big was coming. Woojin spent time with Dr. Kim trying to understand what he had actually done. She brought books about quantum physics and traditional metalworking. Together, they discovered that some of the techniques his grandfather had taught him were similar to mathematical principles used in quantum mechanics. "Your grandfather probably did not know it," said Dr. Kim, "but he was using advanced physics when he folded metals together. The patterns he created are the same patterns that appear in quantum crystalline structures." "So I was not doing magic?" asked Woojin. "No, but you were doing something no one else thought to try. All the Velthari engineers tried to make perfect repairs. You made imperfect repairs that turned out to be better than perfect." On the third day, the ship's sensors detected something approaching fast. It was big, much bigger than their research ship. Commander Lee called everyone to the main viewing deck. Through the large windows, they could see a ship that looked like a flying palace. It was white and gold with tall towers and flowing curves. Smaller ships flew around it like guards protecting a queen bee. "The Eternal Dominion," whispered Zethnal. "The Queen's personal dreadnought." The palace ship was beautiful but also frightening. It had weapons that could destroy a planet. Woojin felt very small looking at it. A message came through the communication system. The voice was female but cold like winter wind. "Research vessel Harmony's Edge. Prepare to receive a royal boarding party. Anyone who interferes will be destroyed." Commander Lee ordered everyone to line up in the main docking bay. Woojin stood between Dr. Kim and Thane Kyung-soo, another Korean engineer who worked with material science. His hands were shaking a little. The docking bay doors opened and figures in golden armor marched in. They moved perfectly together, like dancers who had practiced the same dance for years. Behind them came taller figures in white robes. Finally, the Queen herself appeared. Queen Nixara was 12 feet tall and moved like flowing water. Her skin was pure white and covered with crystal patterns that went from her forehead down to her hands. She wore a crown that seemed to be made of frozen light. When she looked at someone, her eyes glowed like small suns. She walked slowly down the line of crew members, studying each person. When she reached the humans, she stopped. Her voice was quiet, but everyone could hear it clearly. "One of you claims to have accomplished something that my greatest engineers say is impossible." She paused and looked directly at each human. "I am here to learn if this claim is truth or foolishness." Her eyes stopped on Woojin. For a moment that felt like an hour, they stared at each other. Then the Queen spoke the words that would change everything. "Who fixed this armor?" Woojin's mouth felt dry. His heart was beating fast. But he remembered what his grandfather used to say. "Always tell the truth even when you are afraid." He stepped forward. I did. Queen Nixara stared down at Wu Jin for what felt like forever. The docking bay was completely silent except for the humming of the ship's engines. Even the royal guards seemed to be holding their breath. You? The Queen's voice carried surprise and something that might have been insult. You are barely more than a child, and your species has not even learned to travel between stars properly. Wu Jin felt heat rise in his cheeks, but he kept his voice steady. I am 28 years old, Your Majesty, and I have been fixing things since I was 6. The Queen moved closer. Up close, she was even more impressive and frightening. The crystals in her skin pulsed with light, and Wu Jin could feel energy coming from her like heat from a fire. Show me this armor, she commanded. Kael'thek stepped forward and bowed deeply. He activated his armor's display mode, making the crystal matrix visible. The quantum rods glowed bright blue and moved in flowing patterns that looked almost like water. Several of the Queen's engineers rushed forward with scanning devices. They pointed the machines at the armor and watched their screens with growing confusion. Impossible, one of them whispered. The matrix stability is off our measurement scales, said another. Queen Nixara studied the readings herself. Her expression did not change, but the crystals in her skin grew brighter. This armor is performing better than when it was first created 200 years ago. She turned back to Wu Jin. You will demonstrate this technique for me. Now. Your Majesty, said Commander Lee carefully, perhaps we could prepare a proper workspace. Now, the Queen repeated. Her voice made it clear that arguing was not an option. One of the royal engineers brought forward a small device that looked like a silver flower. This is a royal scepter, he explained. The quantum matrix has been damaged in the same way as the armor was. If the human can repair this, we will know his success was not just luck. Wu Jin looked at the scepter. It was much more complex than Kael'thek's armor. The crystal rods were thinner and more delicate. He could see places where they had broken and were slowly dying. I will need my tools, he said. The Queen gestured, and her guards brought Wu Jin's toolbox from the ship. When they opened it, several of the royal engineers laughed. The Queen raised her hand, and the laughter stopped immediately. These are your instruments? She asked. Yes, Your Majesty. My grandfather's tools, and some I made myself. Wu Jin knelt down and spread his tools on the floor, the hammer his grandfather had given him, the small welding torch he had modified, files and measuring tools that looked ancient compared to the alien technology around him. You propose to repair a royal scepter with primitive metalworking tools? Your Majesty, I propose to repair it with understanding. The Queen's eyes narrowed. Explain. Wu Jin picked up the scepter carefully. It was warm and seemed to pulse with a weak heartbeat. Your engineers see this as a machine. They try to make it work exactly the way it was designed to work. And you see it differently? I see it as something alive that is hurt. When something living is hurt, perfect healing is not always the best healing. He pointed to a scar on his own hand. I cut myself when I was learning to use my grandfather's tools. The scar is not perfect smooth skin, but it is stronger than the original skin was. Queen Nixara leaned forward slightly. Continue. The crystal matrix wants to heal itself, but it is trying to heal in exactly the same pattern it had before. That makes it weak in the same places where it broke the first time. Wu Jin started to work. He heated the scepter gently with his torch, watching how the crystal rods responded to the warmth. They began to glow more brightly and move more freely. Instead of forcing them to heal in the old pattern, I will let them choose a new pattern, a stronger pattern. He used his smallest hammer to tap the crystals very gently, not to break them but to guide them in new directions. The watching engineers made worried sounds, but the Queen silenced them with a look. For 2 hours, Wu Jin worked on the scepter. The docking bay was filled with the most powerful people in the galaxy, but he tried to ignore them and focus on the delicate crystal rods under his hands. He could feel the scepter responding to his touch. The crystal rods began to grow in new patterns, curving and flowing around the broken places instead of trying to go through them. Sometimes he made small intentional breaks, then guided the healing around them to create stronger connections. Thane Kyung-soo, his fellow Korean engineer, brought him water and whispered encouragement. Dr. Kim watched from nearby, taking notes on everything he did. Finally, Wu Jin set down his tools. The scepter looked different now. The crystal patterns were more complex and seemed to pulse with stronger light. It is finished, he said, standing up. Queen Nixara took the scepter from him. The moment she touched it, her eyes went wide. The crystals in her skin began to glow brighter than anyone had ever seen them glow. "What have you done?" she whispered. "I have fixed it, Your Majesty." The Queen held the scepter up and activated it. Royal scepters were designed to enhance the mental abilities of Velthari rulers. They helped with memory, calculation, and understanding complex problems. For several minutes, the Queen stood perfectly still with her eyes closed, testing the scepter's functions. When she opened her eyes, she looked at Wu Jin with an expression no one could read. "This scepter is more powerful than when it was first created," she said slowly. "My thoughts are clearer than they have been in decades." The royal engineers rushed to scan the scepter with their devices. Their readings confirmed what the Queen had experienced. The quantum matrix was not just repaired, it was improved. "How is this possible?" asked the chief royal engineer. "Human metalworking traditions," said Wu Jin simply. "My grandfather taught me that the strongest metal comes from folding different materials together. The imperfections become sources of strength." Queen Nixara studied him for a long time. Then she did something that shocked everyone in the docking bay. She handed the scepter to her chief engineer and knelt down so that she was at eye level with Wu Jin. "Human engineer," she said formally, "I have ruled for 2,000 years. In that time I have seen the greatest achievements of a dozen different species. Today you have shown me something completely new." She stood up and addressed everyone in the docking bay. "This human has accomplished something that violates our understanding of quantum physics. Either our science is wrong or we have been thinking about it in the wrong way." The Queen turned to Commander Li. "I wish to speak with your government. There are matters to discuss." "What kind of matters, Your Majesty?" asked Commander Li carefully. Queen Nixara looked back at Wu Jin, who was quietly putting his tools away. "Matters of alliance," she said. "Your species has something we need, and we have much that you need. Perhaps it is time for both our peoples to learn from each other." As the royal party prepared to leave, the Queen stopped beside Wu Jin one more time. "You will come to my ship tomorrow," she told him. "There are things I wish to discuss with you personally." "Yes, Your Majesty, and bring your tools. I have a feeling we will need them." After the Queen and her people left, the docking bay erupted in excited conversation. Everyone wanted to talk to Wu Jin, to ask him questions, to understand what had just happened. But Wu Jin just sat on a cargo box and stared at his grandfather's hammer. He thought about the old man back in Busan who had taught him that every piece of metal had a story to tell. He wondered what his grandfather would think if he knew that his metalworking lessons were about to change the relationship between two star-traveling civilizations. The next morning, Wu Jin stood in the shuttle bay wearing his best clean work clothes. Dr. Kim had helped him prepare for his visit to the Queen's ship. She gave him a small communication device so they could stay in contact. "Remember," she said, "you are representing all of humanity now, but just be yourself." That is what impressed her yesterday. Thane Kyung-soo handed him his toolbox. "Good luck, my friend. Try not to break anything important. I will try to fix something important instead," Wu Jin replied with a nervous smile. The royal shuttle that came to get him was larger than most apartments. Everything inside was white and gold with crystal decorations that glowed softly. The Velthari pilot did not speak during the short trip to the Eternal Dominion. When they docked, Wu Jin was escorted through corridors that looked like they belonged in a palace rather than a spaceship. The walls were covered with paintings that moved like videos, showing scenes from Velthari history. The ceiling was so high that small clouds formed near the top. They brought him to a workshop that made him gasp. It was enormous, with tools and machines he could not even guess the purpose of. Everything hummed with energy and glowed with various colors of light. Workbenches floated in the air, adjusting their height automatically for whoever was using them. Queen Nixara was already there, along with several of her engineers. She was examining a device that looked like a small tree made of crystal and metal. "Human engineer," she said when she saw him. "Welcome to the Royal Workshop. Here we create and repair the most advanced technology in our empire." "It is very impressive, Your Majesty." "Yes, and also very limited." She gestured to the device she had been studying. "This is a neural interface crown. It allows the wearer to connect directly with computer systems and enhance their mental abilities. It has been broken for 50 years, Wu Jin approached carefully. The crown was beautiful but obviously damaged. Several of the crystal branches were cracked and the metal connecting them was twisted. "Our best engineers have tried everything, the Queen continued. They can repair individual components, but when they connect them together, the system fails. The quantum resonance patterns interfere with each other. What does the crown do when it works? Asked Wu Jin. It multiplies the user's thinking speed by a factor of 10. It also allows perfect memory recall and the ability to process multiple complex problems simultaneously. Wu Jin studied the crown more closely. He could see the problem. Each crystal branch was perfect by itself, but they were all trying to work in exactly the same frequency. When they were all active together, they created interference. Your engineers are making each part perfect, he said. Of course, that is how proper engineering is done. But perfect parts do not always make a perfect whole. Queen Nixara's crystals began to glow brighter. Explain. Wu Jin set down his toolbox and pulled out a piece of paper. He drew a simple diagram showing sound waves. If I have two perfect musical notes at the same pitch and I play them together, they can cancel each other out and make silence. Yes, this is basic wave physics. But if I make one note slightly imperfect, slightly different in pitch, then when I play them together they create harmony. The Queen stared at the diagram. You are suggesting that we make the crown components imperfect on purpose? I am suggesting that we make them work together instead of all trying to be the same. One of the royal engineers stepped forward. Your Majesty, this goes against every principle of proper quantum engineering. Each component must meet exact specifications. And yet, said the Queen slowly, this human's imperfect repairs have been more successful than our perfect ones. She turned to Wu Jin. Show me. Wu Jin began to work. First, he studied each crystal branch carefully, learning its natural frequency and resonance pattern. Then he made small adjustments to each one, changing their shape slightly so they would vibrate at different rates. The royal engineers watched in horror as he used his simple tools to deliberately alter the precisely manufactured components. But Queen Nixara watched with intense concentration, asking questions about each step. Why are you making that crystal thicker? She asked. So it will resonate at a lower frequency, like a deeper musical note, and this one? Thinner for a higher frequency. When they work together, they will create harmony instead of fighting each other. For 4 hours, Wu Jin carefully modified each part of the crown. He changed some crystals to be slightly larger or smaller. He bent some of the metal connectors to create tiny delays in the signal timing. He even added small imperfections that would normally be considered manufacturing flaws. Dr. Kim's voice came through his communication device. How is it going? I am about to find out, Wu Jin replied quietly. He put the crown back together, connecting all the modified components. The moment the last connection was made, the entire device began to glow with soft rainbow light. The crystal branches pulsed in a complex rhythm that was beautiful to watch. Incredible, whispered one of the engineers. The quantum resonance patterns are stable. Queen Nixara picked up the crown and examined it closely. The energy readings are within acceptable parameters. But will it actually work? There was only one way to find out. The Queen placed the crown on her head. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her eyes began to glow brighter than anyone had ever seen them. The crystals in her skin lit up like stars. She stood perfectly still for several minutes, and Wu Jin began to worry that something had gone wrong. Finally, she spoke. I can think faster than I have ever thought before. I can see solutions to problems that have puzzled me for decades. My memory is so clear that I can recall conversations from centuries ago. She removed the crown and looked at it with wonder. This is not just repaired. This is improved beyond the original design. The royal engineers were running scans and taking measurements. Their excitement was obvious as they called out numbers and readings to each other. Your Majesty, said the chief engineer, the crown's efficiency has increased by 40%. The neural interface bandwidth is 3 times higher than the original specifications. Queen Nixara turned to Wu Jin. How did you know this would work? My grandfather taught me about harmony, Wu Jin said. In traditional Korean music, the most beautiful sounds come when different instruments play together, each one slightly different from the others. Perfect unison is not as interesting as imperfect harmony. And you applied this musical principle to quantum engineering. All engineering is about making things work together. Whether it is metal or music or quantum crystals, the principles are similar. The Queen was quiet for a long time, thinking. When she spoke again, her voice was different, more thoughtful and less commanding. For 2,000 years, my people have pursued perfection in all things. We believe that the best technology comes from making every component exactly right, but you have shown us something different. She gestured to the crown, which was still glowing softly. You have shown us that perfection might not be perfect after all. Your Majesty, said Wu Jin carefully, your technology is far beyond anything my people can make. But maybe the way we think about making things is different. Maybe we can learn from each other. Queen Nixara smiled. It was the first time anyone had seen her smile, and it transformed her entire face. Yes, she said, I think we can learn much from each other, and I think this learning should begin immediately. She activated a communication device and spoke in her own language to someone on the ship. The conversation was long and seemed very important. When she finished, she turned back to Wu Jin. I have just ordered my fleet to establish communication with your Earth government. There are arrangements to be made. What kind of arrangements, Your Majesty? The kind that will change both our civilizations forever. 3 weeks later, Wu Jin stood in the grandest throne room he had ever imagined. The ceiling stretched up so high that stars were visible through crystal windows. Floating platforms held delegates from dozens of different alien species, all gathered to witness something that had never happened before in galactic history. Queen Nixara sat on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single enormous crystal. Beside her stood Ambassador Donghyun Yu, who had been hastily appointed as Earth's first galactic representative. He looked nervous but determined in his formal diplomatic clothes. Today, the Queen announced, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, we establish a new alliance between the Velthari Empire and the species known as humanity. The alien delegates murmured among themselves. Many of them had never heard of humans before. Others looked confused about why such a primitive species was being offered an alliance with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Wu Jin watched from a special platform with the other humans who had been brought to witness the ceremony. Dr. Kim stood beside him, along with Thane Kyung-soo and Commander Lee. They all wore their best clothes, but still looked very plain compared to the magnificent aliens around them. The terms of this alliance are unique, continued the Queen. Humanity will share their traditional craftsmanship, techniques, and problem-solving methods with our empire. In exchange, we will provide them with advanced technology and protection. A tall alien with purple skin and 6 arms raised a question. Your Majesty, forgive our confusion. What could such a primitive species possibly teach the mighty Velthari Empire? Queen Nixara gestured, and several servants brought forward examples of Wu Jin's work. Kylthex's armor, the royal scepter, and the neural interface crown were displayed for everyone to see. The quantum matrix patterns in each device glowed brightly, showing their impossible stability and efficiency. These devices were thought to be beyond repair, the Queen explained. Our greatest engineers had declared them permanently damaged. Yet one human, using tools that are thousands of years old, not only repaired them but improved them beyond their original capabilities. The purple alien examined the devices with scanning equipment. His expression changed from skepticism to amazement. The quantum efficiency readings are off our measurement scales. How is this possible? That, said the Queen, is what we intend to learn. Ambassador Yu stepped forward to read the formal alliance agreement. His voice was steady despite the enormous responsibility on his shoulders. The Republic of Korea, representing Earth and humanity, agrees to establish educational exchange programs with the Velthari Empire. Human craftsmen and engineers will teach traditional techniques to alien students. In return, Velthari scientists will share their knowledge of advanced physics and technology with human researchers. The ceremony continued for hours. Treaties were signed with holographic technology that created floating documents made of light. Each page was written in dozens of different languages so that all the alien species present could understand. When it was finished, Queen Nixara called Wu Jin forward. He walked across the enormous throne room feeling very small but also proud. His grandfather's teachings were about to spread across the galaxy. Wu Jin Park, the Queen said formally, I hereby appoint you as the first human royal engineer. You will establish workshops on 3 different worlds and teach your methods to students from across the empire. She handed him a badge that was made of the same crystal material as her crown. When he touched it, it began to glow and warm against his hand. This badge will identify you as a member of my personal staff, she explained. It will also translate any language and provide you with access to any facility in the Empire. Thank you, Your Majesty. I am honored. The honor is ours, she replied. You have shown us that there are still new ways to think about old problems. After the ceremony, there was a celebration that lasted until the next day. Alien musicians played instruments that created music with colors as well as sounds. Food from 100 different worlds was served on tables that floated through the air. Wu Jin found himself surrounded by aliens who wanted to learn about human metalworking techniques. He tried to explain his grandfather's teachings to creatures who had never even seen natural metal before Dr. Kim was equally busy talking to Velthari scientists about the physics behind traditional craftsmanship. We think the folding and hammering techniques create quantum-level changes in the metal structure, she explained to a group of fascinated researchers. Late in the evening, Wu Jin stepped out onto a balcony that overlooked space. Stars stretched endlessly in all directions, and he could see ships from many different worlds docked at the Queen's space station. Commander Lee joined him. Hard to believe how much has changed, is it not? A month ago, I was just fixing coffee makers and broken computers, Wu Jin replied. Now I am supposed to teach alien civilizations how to work with metal. Your grandfather would be proud. Wu Jin smiled at that thought. I sent him a message yesterday. He said to remember that the best tools are still the ones that fit your hands properly. Simple wisdom, said Commander Lee. But maybe that is exactly what the galaxy needs. A year later, Wu Jin stood in a workshop on the planet Velthara Prime, watching his students practice the hammer techniques his grandfather had taught him. The students included Velthari engineers, blue-skinned Keplerians, and even some of the heavy-gravity Gorth people. The workshop looked strange. Ancient human metalworking tools sat beside quantum fabrication machines. Students used traditional hammers and files to modify advanced alien devices. The combination should not have worked, but it did. Remember, Wu Jin told his class, perfection is not about making everything exactly the same. Perfection is about making everything work together in harmony. A young Velthari student raised her hand. Teacher, why do we make small breaks in the crystal matrix on purpose? Because, said Wu Jin, picking up his grandfather's hammer, sometimes you have to break something a little bit to make it stronger. The cracks become places where new growth can happen. He demonstrated on a practice piece, tapping gently to create a tiny flaw in the crystal structure. Then he guided the crystal's natural healing around the flaw, creating a connection that was more flexible and durable than the original. Now you try, he told the students. As they worked, Wu Jin thought about how far he had traveled, not just in distance but in understanding. His grandfather's simple lessons about metalwork had become the foundation for a new kind of engineering that was spreading across the galaxy. Ships built with human-influenced techniques were faster and more efficient. Communication devices created with traditional craftsmanship principles were clearer and more reliable. Even weapon systems worked better when they incorporated the harmony concepts his grandfather had taught him. But the most important change was not in the technology. It was in the way different species were learning to work together. Just like the imperfect crystals that created stronger connections, the differences between species were becoming sources of strength rather than division. Thane Kyung-soo entered the workshop carrying a message tablet. Wu Jin, there is news from Earth, good news or bad news. Your grandfather wants to know when he can visit your alien workshop. He says he has some new techniques he wants to teach your students. Wu Jin laughed. Tell him to pack his tools. I think the galaxy is ready for more Korean metalworking wisdom. Outside the workshop windows, ships from dozens of different worlds came and went. Each one carried students who were learning that the strongest things in the universe were not the most perfect things, but the things that knew how to work together. And in a small workshop on Velthara Prime, the sound of hammering continued as students from across the galaxy learned the ancient Earth wisdom that flaws could be beautiful, imperfection could be strong, and harmony was more valuable than perfection. The alien queen had demanded who fixed the armor, and a human engineer had stepped forward. But what began as one man's simple repair had become something much larger. It had become a bridge between civilizations, built from the understanding that differences were not weaknesses to be eliminated, but strengths to be celebrated. In the end, Wu Jin thought, his grandfather had been right all along. The best tools were the ones that fit your hands. And sometimes the hands that could fix the hardest problems were the ones that came from the most unexpected places.